What's up, everybody? Another episode of First with Foremost, episode number 8. I'm told this is a number that if we get past, then we're going to continue to do it. So I'm glad we're here. I got Andrew with us again, and then we got a special guest today, which is one of my best friends, Chris Stowe. We've been in bands together. We've been in multiple situations together, I guess you want to call that. You might know him from a million awesome bands, Nightmarathons. You may have talked to him via AF Records. So yeah, what's up, Chris? How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Yeah, I think we're doing good, man.
Yeah,
it's nice and chill. Kids sleeping.
Yeah.
All right.
All things are good. Yes.
Yeah, it's dad time, huh?
It's dad time.
Cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for spending it with us.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, the only had to read 3 unicorn books tonight.
Ooh.
Okay.
Not too many. Yeah. But that's a good time.
I miss the book days. I long for it.
Back when things were easy.
Yeah. He's just like probably a better reader, definitely a better reader than I am already. So it's just like he's going to be 11 though, so.
Fair enough, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So This is your podcast. This is fun.
Welcome.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for joining us, man. This is First with Foremost. Me and Andrew talk about like gear, our stupid obsession with like not just guitars and bass and music, but like the absolute stupid nitty gritty, like not just a guitar, but like strings and pickups. And
I talked about Leo Fender's workbench for like 10 minutes last week or the week before.
That's funny.
Yeah. Leo Fender's workbench. That's how nerdy we can get if you want us to.
Yeah.
Or we could, talk about absolutely nothing to do with music.
We've done all sorts of different types of formats, I feel like. We've had guests, we've had
for sure.
Gear ones about our songs. So
well, Dustin knows this about me, that I'm like the worst gear person ever because I don't know what anything does and I don't really use anything.
Yeah. And I'm thinking in my head, I want to ask you some stuff about that.
Me too.
Today, because for a guy that says he doesn't care about that stuff and being in with a couple bands with you, I mean, your fucking guitar tones are killer. So like you do
thank you.
Either
Definitely
have an ear for it or care, or there's something there, but there's also something like, you're like not into the hype or the whatever. I feel like you're a kind of guy that can take a guitar and an amp and then like make it sound kind of the same no matter what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am kind of going for that exact same thing every time.
Okay.
2 sounds, a twinkly sound, and then a louder twinkly sound.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And those are the only 2 I determined that I needed forever ago.
That's awesome.
So our first band together was an SG, and you used, pickup selection to do that, right?
Yeah, I've always done that.
Yeah.
I've always used the selector switch on the guitar to make the clean channel. I've had that SG, and I still play that as my primary guitar. I got that when I was 16. So that was 22 years ago. That's fucking terrible
so awesome
to say out loud.
I was going to ask about that guitar actually.
Yeah, it's old. And when I got it, that was also the year that the Tom DeLonge signature Fender guitar came out.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, the thing that made that the signature guitar was the Seymour Duncan Invader pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And the guitar player in my high school band, he was way more into gear, and I just kind of stole every idea from him. And in fact, I had his amp when I was in Above the Screaming and had been borrowing it for like 10 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and then, yeah. So everything, I kind of stole every idea I've ever had from Derek. His name is Derek Hoppin. He was a much better guitar player than me, but he got that guitar. It sounded perfect. And I was like, fuck, I just need that pickup. So I just put that one pickup in there, and then I use a EMG Select in the neck for the clean channel, which is a lot warmer too.
Mhm.
So when you switch to that, it has body to substitute for a lot of the dropout that you would get. And then I'm doing a bunch of volume shit too. So sometimes it's like half dial on the Invader is like half a clean. Yeah. So I'm just doing all kinds of anything that any normal person is doing
Switching with the
guitar
pickups and
pedal.
that.
I'm probably just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, so you're doing it all with your hands, and instead of stepping on a
Yeah,
fucking
that's what's
pedal
up.
to
Yep.
make it happen.
I could never do that. Like I could never figure it out. Like when I was a kid trying to learn how to step on a distortion pedal to make the sounds change,
Yeah.
it was never like I always messed up the timing, or it was just like a
Mhm.
thing I couldn't think about and play at the same time. So I think that's why also
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just do this.
I think I was like
flip this thing.
25 the first time I bought my first pedal. Like that wasn't just something that was laying around a practice place that I was messing with. Like when I actually sought
Okay.
one out, I was always straight into the amp too. That's the way to. When I play in the basement, that's what I do. Like I have all these pedals, and I end up
Yeah.
just plugging into the amp and ripping it because, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless I'm writing with a specific sound in mind, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
want to play, right? I just want to bang around on it. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's awesome.
Chris, I didn't have a pedal until like way after our band. We just both plugged into our shit. That was
Yes, we
it.
did.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
We're very
You know?
loud.
Yeah.
We're very,
Very
good.
loud.
Very loud 3-piece.
Yeah. Somehow a very loud 3-piece with a quiet drummer.
Yeah.
How did that work?
I don't know.
Maybe. Well, that's probably why it didn't fucking work. I don't know.
Yeah, so tell me
was
tell
good.
me about that band, guys, because like Dustin, I met you, and then when we caught back up, maybe like a year or two later, you were like, "Check out this
Mhm.
band I'm in with my friend Stowe," and it was that
Yeah.
band.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. What do you want to know about?
I just want to know, like, I don't know, tell me about that, because Dustin, you vaguely told me about like a terrible recording experience, and like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that was
well,
fucking ridiculous.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. All right, you guys had this band, and the reason it's in my memory is because I had the fucking CD in my car for like 10 years, right, in the glove box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like people would be like, "What's
Okay.
this?" And I'd be like, "Pop it in," you know.
Yeah.
And like I don't know. That's why it's just like I feel like when I got the CD, you guys weren't a band anymore. So I was just curious, like, how long was it, and like,
So Chris, I'll lead us up to like the band. I was in a cover band
Mhm.
with a guy who he was like our drummer /
okay,
we had two
real quick,
drummers.
did you
that
guys
also
know each other
sang.
in high
Yep.
school? Like, no?
No.
Okay. So
Nope.
this is when you're meeting each other.
I'll get to
Okay.
us. Yep. I'll get to us meeting.
Sorry, go on.
No, yeah. My drummer in my cover band worked at a bar, and I hung out at that bar. And then without me knowing, Chris hung out at that bar. And we can get into the actual story about it, Stowe, if you're cool with your
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I knew all the people at this bar. I'm not saying I was like I would walk in there and like I would get a beer immediately. Like everyone fucking knew me. It was all my friends, right?
Yeah.
And I think Chris was like a new person at this bar. So
yeah,
I was
moved
there.
to Johnstown. I didn't know anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. He was new to Johnstown.
Yep.
Meanwhile, this bar was literally like walking distance from where I was living at the time.
Gotcha.
So it was like my local spot. And it was around the holidays. And one of the bartenders was like, "Hey man, like just order whatever you want. Like don't even worry about it because like some fucking dude down there is like buying the next person a drink and I'll just make it yours." And I'm like, that sounds weird. Like I'm not going to rip this guy off. Like just give me what I normally drink.
Right.
And he's like, "All right." And I like look down the bar and there's just like this dude with a Braves hat on, like, "Hey," like waving or whatever. I'm like, "All right." And like that happened multiple times where I was like, okay, well, I got to go fucking talk to this guy.
Yeah.
And me and Chris talked I was like, "Hey man, I think you're the dude, whatever, like buying me beers or whatever." And I don't even remember that transaction, to be honest with you. Chris, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went there, and it was either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And I had this Christmas money that my aunt and uncle gave me. It was like $50.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna buy random people at the bar drinks. So that's what I told the
Kickstart your
bartender
karma.
to do. I was trying to kickstart my karma for the next
That's
year.
what's up.
Yeah, it probably didn't work, but it's fine.
It's the thought that counts, man.
The idea was he was supposed to just give it to the next random person, but he just kept giving it to Dustin. So I was getting scammed.
Yeah.
In theory.
And I knew about it. I'm like,
Dustin's
come on,
Dustin's
man.
in on the con.
But eventually, after Dustin got the fourth drink for free, that I was trying to spread out over a bunch of random people. Then Dustin came up and was like, "Hey, thanks for the beer, man. Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't know anybody, and I'm just kind of a weird guy that does weird stuff, and this is one of those weird things I decided to try to do. Yeah, and that was it.
That's awesome.
So
And you were like, well, see you later.
It's
Yep.
awesome.
I was like, cool, thanks. So at that same bar, my drummer was also a bartender, and I don't think he was there that night. And then our cover band, whatever the fuck you want to call it, kind of split up ish. And I was in the bar, and Craig is bartending, and he's playing music, and I'm like, what is this? And he's like, you and Craig had met.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had shown Craig some demos or something of some music you had.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so we Craig and I had hung out because the other point of this bar is like it was the only craft beer bar that existed, and kind of like in a lot of places, craft beer was very, very small, and
Yeah.
only a few
This is
people
like-
were into it.
Yeah, this
It's like
is like
2012 or something.
oh yeah, dude, no,
2010?
it was
It was earlier than that.
Fuck.
It was not
2008?
even craft beer. It was first import, and then craft beer had just started while we were going there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is where you went if you were trying to try beers. and
Hell yeah.
Be into beer, which I was into beer.
Yeah, and me too.
And so Craig and I hit it off because we were talking about music, and I'm like, yeah, I played in this band in Pittsburgh, and I just moved here. I don't know what's going on. And my instinct always when I would move somewhere then is like, well, I need to figure out how to get a band or whatever. So Craig came over to my house, and I played him some demos that were just like acoustic songs that I had written after that band I was in, but I had nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
I think I just recorded
Chris, do you
them on,
remember
like-
what those were like recorded on?
Yeah, I had a 8-track Fostex digital recorder that I would then use again to make the anniversary club stuff.
Ooh,
but like
Nice.
that's what I'd used it for. It was rough because like if you fuck something up, you had to do the whole thing again.
Right.
It was not an iPhone or
Yeah.
as easy as
Yeah.
that is.
It's not GarageBand.
Yeah. But no, I gave this to Craig, and he was like, "This is great," and I was like, right." You never know if it's good or not, if they think it's good, but
Yeah.
I
so
assume that's what Dustin heard that day.
that is what I heard. I'm like, what the fuck is this? He's like trying to explain to me you. He's like, have you seen this kid in here? He's like, kind of got some tattoo. Like, yeah, and I'm like, I think that's that fucking guy that was like buying me the beers on like Christmas or whatever. So, long story short, he's like, well, next time I see him, like, he told me, he's like, I think he's like, I'm a drummer, you're a bass player. This guy like writes songs and plays guitar. Like, I think we should like ask him if he wants to do something. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
the recipe is right.
fuck yeah. And if I'm being like totally fucking honest, Chris, like I know like from that moment on, it's kind of blurry until you and me like just straight up drinking at that bar and becoming best friends. Like
Yeah.
I don't really remember jamming for the first time or like any of that stuff. Like I'm just being honest, like I kind of don't.
Yeah. Well,
I
we
mean,
did
like I
drink
know
quite a
where it
bit.
was at because it was obviously at the shop or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this place that we rehearse at. Andrew, you and me have
Yep.
been there a bunch of times. That's where we wrote wrote all these songs and stuff.
Okay,
But
that's sick.
yeah, man, if you got anything to fill me in that gap. That would be awesome.
I remember the first one, and then the first jam we wrote I had a complete song, and that's the only time we really did that. That was that fuck, I have no idea what these songs were called, but it was the one with starts with the riff and then it's waited so long, that song.
Okay.
So we wrote that then because I had that. And then after that, we just hung out, and every time we would practice, we would just jam for like hours until something came out of that. And that's how we wrote the rest of everything. Yep.
Pretty awesome.
But yeah, we would just hang out at the bar or wherever, and then jam for like 8 hours into the morning, and then that would be the next song. And we just did that until we had enough, and then we started playing shows, I guess.
Well,
I know it's hard
practices,
to remember. I was just curious because that's like, I don't know. That's what I remember when I remember meeting you and Dustin, or Dustin and you.
Chris, I like the practices became our first shows.
Yeah.
Like, so the more the band came along and the more like me, you and Craig became like inseparable. Like we were we worked together. You and me were doing jobs together. Craig was working during the day. We were all working at night, bartending, like coming up with money to do whatever we needed the money for with the band. And it was all together. And then we would practice after our fucking bar shifts.
Yeah.
At like, we would show up
3 a.m.
3 a.m. until daylight.
So there's no neighbors around there. That's
it's
fucking
a
awesome.
bunker.
I know
dude.
it's a bunker.
Yeah, you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
For those listening, it's like a basement under a
machine
shop in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? Like you could.
I pass it all the time, and I'm like, I have that weird like uncanny valley thing where it's like, is that spot? Is that really where we were in that basement?
So Chris, I'm bartending. Chris was like bar backing. Craig was like the manager at this bar, all the same bar. And like Friday night, we'd be done with our shift, and all these like waitresses and like whoever were like trying to get their tip money and like party or whatever. And all three of us are like, dude, we got to get out of here. We got to go practice. Yeah. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And we're like, we're in a fucking punk band and we're going to play. And I remember for like months, no one gave a shit. and then something happened.
Cool,
I don't know what the
guys.
hell it was. Something happened. And then all of a sudden they were like, can we come? And we're like, I guess. I don't like, okay. Do you remember that? Like, and then it would just be like, the three of us, we would like play whatever songs we had structured. And then after that, we would just, like you said, we would jam for a fucking hour or whatever.
Well, the thing that happens to me all the time, or used to when I was in bands, is what happened then. Like I remember it happening a bunch of different times, but people are always surprised to like hear what I sound like.
Yeah.
That always like freaks people out. And I remember that happening with like Whitney and I forget the rest of those people's names.
Yeah.
We named a song after Whitney because she was such a butthead about
not good enough for Whitney.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what happened. And they were all like, that comes out of that? Dude, that's weird.
No one there had any fucking
awesome,
clue what the hell we were talking about.
I love your voice, Chris, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
It's come a long way from whatever it was then to whatever it is now.
Yeah.
I don't know if in a good way or not, but I keep it going.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were the epitome of like just, idiots doing our thing.
Yeah.
Working
and
all
it was
these
a
jobs.
Weird band. It was a 3-piece. I wrote everything in drop D.
Nice.
It was kind of punk, but it was also kind of
that's what I mean. People would
know what the fuck
when
it
I'd
was,
have it in my car, people would be like taken back a little bit because they'd be like, "Yeah, it's my friend's punk band." Like a couple of the songs were almost like experimental or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're super. It's cool.
Our jams were not punk. They were just like, I don't know, man. That was like such a cool experience. Like we literally, there was never ever a moment where it was
You're like
like,
learning to
oh,
play
that
together.
doesn't sound good.
It's like the shit.
Yeah,
That's awesome that you guys had
like
that. You had that much time together to
we
do that, to jam out songs and then structure from jams like that.
well, there was like, it was never a spoken rule, or we never talked about it, but we just like from day one just jam. And if something sounded like shit, it's like no one told you about it. It's like I know that was a dumb idea. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we just like, okay, keep, like we just kept going with the jam
Yeah.
until eventually after an hour it was like all of our musical ears filtered it to like, we knew that riff that you played there was fucking awesome. You knew it was awesome. Keep doing that. You know, like Craig would dial in on the drums and then I'd figure out what the fuck you were doing and figure something out.
Yeah, it was always like we never talked about anything until it was done.
Never.
And then it was just like done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I that's still that's always the best way to write songs, is you just like have to sit in it until
Yeah. Let
you
it
can-
stew.
That's how Night Marathons does everything too. We'll just sit there for like, we'll play the same thing for like an hour, and then
That's cool.
at the end it'll be like, okay, these are 2 usable things, and
Yep.
how do we get that into a song? Like, is this a whole song, or are we just jamming this one weird Sunny Day Real Estate riff? What are we doing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is this anything already? And if
Yeah.
it's not, where can we put
Hell
it?
yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
So how long?
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best moment, when you're just like, you're in the middle of that and you're just like, yeah, it's a nice zone for me to be in. That's a very comfortable place.
Yeah, it's a good feeling for sure. How long
Yeah.
after that was Anniversary Club then? Because is that like the stepping
I think
stone?
I just started doing that.
Or what?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I just started doing that afterwards, I guess.
Okay, because that's
I
like
just wanted to
came-
see.
that was like the next
came
thing
up with the
Dustin
name.
told me. Right? He's like, "We're going to fucking Europe," and I'm like, "What?"
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know.
That was
Well,
wild, man.
We
When I
came up
think
with the
about that-
name for it in Florida on tour with Above the Screaming.
Okay.
Well, I
It
say
was based
we,
on
like,
a picture on a Rogue beer bottle.
That's awesome.
With I forget what beer that is, but it's like the one with the old lady cheersing. And I was like, what if it's called Anniversary Club? Because I was trying to name it something.
That's a cool
because I
name.
didn't want to. It's not bad,
I like it.
but it's very stupid to
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
solo project named after a thing that
A
implies
club.
that there's more than one
Right,
person in
right.
it. Yes. But I was like, but the irony is great because it's just me.
Yeah.
Don't you get it? I'm by myself. It's a club of one. Nobody got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it. It was fine.
That's cool, man.
And the best part about it, like any band name, is it didn't exist yet. So it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always hard to
Come
come up with band names.
Yeah.
It's
But
brutal,
yeah, I
man.
started doing that just as another outlet thing. Those songs started off really bad.
Yeah.
But eventually got pretty good. Writing acoustic songs by yourself is hard.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to walk this line of like, am I trying to be a folk thing, or because I wanted it to be emo,
Right.
but in a different kind of way?
Right.
I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
I wasn't trying to nail into singer songwriter thing necessarily, but I didn't want to be. Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I'm still trying to figure out what that was trying to be.
that's cool, man. That's good stuff.
I think it was, I mean, it was a mix of what was going on in all of our heads back then, man. It was folk stuff we were listening to, like, at that time was right around when the whole punk band does like lead singer goes and does a folk band thing.
Yep.
So we were listening to a bunch of that. We were listening to, like, you know, new punk music at the time and old punk music at the time. And like back then it was like really changing. And I think honestly, man, like listening back to that stuff, like, one, it doesn't sound dated. Like, it sounds fucking great. And two, it really is like almost song by song, like exactly all of those things. Like, there's your punk acoustic song, there's your folk acoustic song, there's like all of that stuff is mashed up into one somehow coherent fucking album. which is kind of wild.
Interesting. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I actually meant to go back. My dad just sent it to me. He found that What You've Got Is Already Gone EP, which is the first thing I made before I made anything.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And that thing is old. So
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it. I'm sure it's horrible. I don't want to open it because I'm sure it's bad.
It's always the worst listening
I was-
to old stuff of your own.
I was really trying to sound like a gruff dude. I always have been. And that is not what my voice sounds like naturally.
Right.
It kind of does now, and now I don't even want it to. But back then I was really forcing that.
Yeah.
And so that comes across and is cringy to listen to. But some of those songs are still okay.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
And that's a good title
yeah.
for an EP. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been like, fuck, I fucking wasted that.
yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever even heard that stuff, but I mean, the album we're talking about is called Bleed. Also, great name.
Yep.
I don't know, man. That's seriously like a great, like, whole fucking album. Honestly, man.
Thanks.
If I were you, I'd be like very fucking proud of that.
I am proud of that. We recorded that in the house too.
Yep.
And that was cool. And that was like a family affair too. Like everybody was around all the time.
Yeah.
And my friend Dan from Philly came and recorded it for me. And he did a great job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, killed it, dude. Like, how again, like, I don't know, you know, obviously I met Dan through our experience together, but like, I would also love to know, like, did you talk to Dan about like, hey man, do you think you can do this? Like, did he reach out to you? Like, how did that turn out that he was going to be the one to come to Pittsburgh or Johnstown at the time and just like record your fucking album?
Oh, he just said he would do it while we were on tour.
Okay.
And I was like, yep, cool.
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to record because also like we never paid for anything because everything was completely DIY.
Right.
And we were just like, when I went on tour, I just lived in my Nissan and
Hell yeah.
like hoped I could make it to the next city. And you were literally eating like anything you could get for free everywhere you went. You were kind of homeless, but you had a mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Nomadic.
You had a destination the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Very weird. I would never recommend that. When I think about this shit that I did, and I'm like, God, I hope Willow does not do that. That's all I think about whenever I think about this stuff. I'm like, God, I hope she doesn't live in her fucking car. I'll at least be there to be like, don't live in your car. We can get this shitty hotel instead. Let's do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then I was just like, if something seemed like a good idea, I was just like, fuck it. Just follow that and just like keep following.
Hell yeah.
So I was just kind of manifesting different things because I always thought that if you just do something tiny incrementally, just reach like one person at a time at a show. This is what made me go on tour so much. Because I was like, all right, I need one person at each show. If I can reach them, then if I can play 50 shows this summer, that's 50 people at least. If my quota is one a day, which is low. So I just always had to make sure I reached out to one person a day. And then I could feel good at the end of the day. Because when you're playing acoustic shows, it sucks. Because you're like, people talk over you. You have to learn how to deal with that.
Oh, yeah.
You get sandwiched. Like sometimes they're like, can you play a song in between the bands? Like an intermission?
Been there.
And you're like,
No,
fuck
no,
off.
I can't fucking do that.
Yeah. There's all kinds of horrible, dumb situations you get into just because you're yourself. You're like, well, you're kind of not really a whole band. Can we do this other weird shit with you instead? So yeah, to overcome those shitty shows, I was like, well, at least that one person talked to me today. Or like, they said they liked it, so maybe they'll remember that song. Maybe that will go on and help them in some way. So
Man, that's a really
That's what I was
positive
doing.
drive. I like that.
It was coming from a bad fucking place. So I made some good out of that, I think.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I was fucking bummed out in a horrible, horrible place when I was writing those songs.
Gotcha.
But as you will be sometimes when you're writing songs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as you will be just as a fucking person, man. Luckily for us as musicians and artists, you know, we have some sort of outlet that for some reason, if it's successful, it's like, you know, people love it.
Yeah.
When it comes from those dark places.
Yeah.
You know, people that don't have that just have to stew in that stuff.
I think it was all supposed to happen anyways, though. It's like I was never going to get away from that because it led me to all the shit that I have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's directly responsible for everything good in my life, even though it didn't necessarily do anything by itself.
Right.
It made all those other things possible and then happen.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I remember countless like super late night phone calls with you about these like incremental decisions along the way of like, should I fucking go on tour with these guys or should I like, what the fuck should we do? Right.
Yeah.
And just like you said, I think, you know, the common thread was always like, I think this is a good opportunity, man. Like, let's figure it out. You know, even if it's like you doing it, like we'll figure it out. Like whatever happens when you come back, like you've got a place to stay or like whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like this is an opportunity. This is like the music thing. Go do it. And you know, you specifically like never fucking stopped doing that.
Yes.
You know,
It's very true. I did not quit because I don't necessarily know how to quit anything. This one time it worked in my favor.
yeah.
Annie Duke hadn't written that book yet. So that was good too. I don't know who I was just talking to this about, but yeah, it's just like I was going backwards about something. And I was like, well, if I never would have done that anniversary club thing, would have never played a show with Roger.
Mm-hmm.
If I never played a show with Roger, I wouldn't have gotten into White Wives. I wouldn't have started AF Records stuff. Wouldn't have met my wife. None of anything would have happened. Wouldn't have moved to Pittsburgh. Fuck, I have no idea what would have happened.
Right.
So it like,
we'd be your fucking neighbors, Andrew. We'd still be living on fucking Linden Avenue. Well, no, my house would have
Yeah,
been
your
down,
house is
but,
gone.
like we'd still
Every time we pass it, I'm like, there's Dustin's house. Jess is like, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, who knows? I mean, we've just been like somewhere there.
well, the pony closed, so we would have had to find other jobs. So did Family Video, RIP.
RIP, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. There's a Egyptian joint down the road here on the corner by the paint store. You know where I mean?
Okay.
In that little plaza there. It is
Mhm.
awesome. Gyro joint.
No
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Muhammad. He's like, we're on first name basis because we go like every Tuesday, but he's the shit, man. He's so happy. And he's just like, every time I'm in there, he's like, what's up, man? Like, you know, his daughter knows me now. I don't know. But the falafel there, man. Oh my God. Sorry to go off on the tangent, but yeah,
Dude,
That's
it's
great.
like
I'm
great
glad-
that
I'm
there's
glad,
that kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm glad our old neighborhood has a fucking awesome restaurant in general.
Yeah. I'm hoping that
I don't
it
care
sets
what
off
it
a chain
is.
reaction, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It's really good.
All right, so Chris, when
Yes.
we were in a band, you played an SG into some sort of Mesa Boogie thing.
Yeah, so that was
with
a
fucking nothing. You had a tuner rack, the preamp, and a power amp, and then your 212 thing, right? If I'm remembering it correctly. So like, what's changed from them then until now? What are you up to these days?
well, that thing was very heavy.
Rack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that rack was Derek's. It was a Mesa Studio preamp with a Mesa Studio head with a 50/50 preamp.
Okay. Okay.
And so that is basically like, it's kind of like a dual rack, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, the preamp stages on those are pretty fucking similar,
Yeah.
and when you combine it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Derek eventually wanted that back, and shout out to Matt Morgan for restoring it for him before that happened. He fixed the spring reverb. Matt Morgan did somehow, made it good as new, and Derek was like, "Whoa, that never worked. I thought this thing was going to be broken. You've had it for like 5 years." I was like, "Nope, here you go. Thanks, man."
Yeah,
That's
check it out.
awesome.
Always feel good about that. Like, I gave that amp back in a nice way.
Yeah.
That's good. And from there, I That's when I joined Police Chases. Was the next time I needed an amp.
Okay.
So I still had the 212, which is the old Mesa Boogie 212 with the
grill
metal rack. I got that also when I was 16. So that is just as old as the SG.
That's awesome.
We got it for a super deal because it didn't have the nameplate. It was like $300.
Yeah.
It has a vintage 30 in the top and an electro voice speaker in the bottom.
Ooh, okay.
So that's the combo speaker thing that's in there.
That's awesome.
I bought a dual rectifier used for $500 to join Police Chases. I bought it from the drummer they just kicked out, which is funny because he needed money. He was like, okay. It was nice. He let me give it to him in payments. In retrospect, that amp is worth way more than $500.
Yeah.
So I had the dual rec, and then I just did the exact same shit that I did with the other stuff. I was like, okay, I just dialed it until it was good, and then I didn't use any clean channel in Police Chases, so I didn't even need to switch anything.
Hell
I
yeah.
just turned it on, partied.
What's your philosophy when you say like dialed it until it's good? Like, what are you shooting for there? Like, just pretty much like flat. When you do twinkly bits, it just kind of like, is there a sound or something in your head you're going for, or you're just like can't explain it? It just is what it is. You just hit knobs until you're like, yep, that's it.
Kind of. I do two things. Number one, I look at all of the other guitar players and see what they're up to. So in Police Chases, Dan,
pro musician right here. Okay.
Yeah, right. The Dans both had Marshalls, and Dan DeLucia had like a really, really big Marshall rocker tone, and that's like heavy bass. It's pretty heavy. And the thing I always try to shoot for with my tone is like a nice mid-range.
Yep.
That you can still hear everything, but there is some distortion to it. It's not super bass heavy. That's the bass player's job, in my opinion.
Yep.
So I try to have like a nice mid sound, but also drive too. And that is what makes the twinkly bits come through and sparkle a little bit and makes that shine kind of twang. That comes from the Invader too, because the Invader pickup is like crazy high gain output. So a lot of the gain I don't have to push from the amp because it's already coming from that pickup.
Yeah.
So that's the tone I normally shoot for. In my head, this might sound crazy, but I'm trying to mimic the way that the grade guitar tones sound from the Under the Radar record.
Yeah.
As weird as the references grade might be.
No, man. That
like a screamo band.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Dude, that makes sense because it's very like Sawtooth, like cutty. Just like, I don't even know how to describe it, but also dude, that's awesome that like you're listening to the other instruments and carving your own way,
shaping the tone
through
to
there.
it.
Oh,
Getting
that's so
in
cute.
that EQ band, baby.
And it's the same thing that happens with Nightmarathons because Corey is a very similar guitar tone. And it's even different with like the way that we play. I also try to complement that. Like Corey has a lot of attack and he's very driving. And his tone is also very like he's had a bunch of different amps he's fucked around with.
Right.
But it's always been the same.
Is he still doing? Yeah. Is he? Well, you guys had orange stuff for a second, but he's not.
Yeah, I still have orange stuff. Corey's ditched his orange, and he's back to his 5150 combo.
Yep. Yeah.
He messes around. That orange got weird on him. In his defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not for
That's
everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
And nothing against them.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Exactly.
I still like mine, but it's just for lazy reasons. Mostly. If I had the choice, if I didn't have to carry
Dude, I
anything,
love having a combo amp instead of a half stack. It is. I know exactly.
The other thing about the great thing about my orange is like it's a solid state and doesn't sound like that.
Hell yeah.
So it's nice, but also I can let anybody use it and I don't fucking care.
Right.
Like you can't break
Right.
it. You're not going to blow a tube
Right.
because you can't. So I'm always like, yeah, it really has come up like
so
a lot.
freeing.
So I'm just like, yeah, of course, use my amp, dude. Of course, I could give a fuck. try to break
Right.
this. You can't. But I do listening to the other musicians is kind of what I build all my parts around. I actually build a lot of stuff around what Tim is up to. He probably doesn't know that.
Tim's the drummer.
Yeah, Tim is the drummer in Nightmarathons. He's an amazing drummer, best drummer in Pittsburgh. I've been saying that forever.
Yeah, he rips really hard.
But yes, he does a lot of different nuancy things,
Mhm,
and I key into that as much as I can to help accent the things that are going on.
Yeah.
And I think that helps with a lot of the rhythm section stuff too. It also gives Chris some room to do like weird noodly bits that he likes to be up to too. So sometimes I'm more locked in with Tim than Chris, the bass player, is.
Mm-hmm.
We
I mean, you can hear that stuff that it's thought out, because when it's live and it's fucking loud, even not only just like a ear thing, it's a, like, I've seen you guys on some loud fucking stages. It's a feel thing. Like,
It's like a wall of sound.
when
That's what I felt like.
yeah,
At the show we played together a couple months in December. I was like, I can
loud.
feel this. I love this.
but it's so cool because you can hear everything, and then you guys like clearly have thought out some stuff where you're like, you know, what you just explained is happening, and then everyone locks into something to like build up to a, you know, a bridge or a chorus or whatever the fuck it is. And it's like so much more impactful because it is so nuanced and layered. Like, it sounds like you guys have two more fucking guitar players than you have,
Oh, that's cool.
without adding a third guitar player like you guys have or whatever, you know, like it really is like, okay, like this is a different level. Like, this is fucking awesome.
So
Thanks, man.
yeah,
That's very nice. I'm very lucky. They're all very good at what they're up to, and we're in like.
Oh shit! There it is. Yeah,
I picked this up. I looked at it, and I hear in my head, "And now I'm closer to the end." What Dustin was just talking about, that part where it drops out and that vocal thing, the build to that, and then that like release. Yeah, you guys got something going on awesome with that rhythm. It's just like a
sick.
Yeah,
fucking drive.
all those buildy things just come from those like jams for forever.
yeah, 100%,
like,
man.
Figure out the tiny little things to do.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking about that while we practice, because we play the set at least twice when we're there. If we have a show coming up, we spend like 6 weeks. We were on the set like twice a night for practice nights. And I'm like, if I did this little tiny thing a little better, will that help Tim's like double smack on the snare? Like any sort of little tiny thing that I can do to accent anything that anybody else is up to. I always try to find those little like nuggets, just because it's still fun that way.
So you guys have 3 guitars now, right?
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Yes. We added a third guitar player. Ryan Williamson is possibly the person that I have known in my life the longest, that I still talk to and know of.
Gotcha.
Ryan is from Kane, and when we were kids, Ryan and I's bands were playing shows with each other when like we were like 15 and 16.
Hell yeah.
Which is crazy. Ryan would book shows at his Elks Lodge in Kane. He was in a band called the Moose Knuckles.
Good fucking name.
Very funny. They have some great merch on the internet if you can find it.
Shit.
And then he would come to play in Warren with us in my band. But yeah, Ryan's always been a part of my life, and it's really cool to get to be in a band with him after all this time.
Yeah.
He also recorded our last record.
Okay.
And we practice in his basement. He built a little studio in his basement. He's also in the band Signals Midwest.
I'm a fan.
He's in another band called Reckon.
Pennant
that he just started. Yeah. But yeah, he's a great musician. He actually adds a lot of interesting things. We've only been practicing together for maybe like a month, maybe a little more, but it's super fun to see the stuff that he adds. He's a lot like Corey in that he has a lot of attack too. But he's also thinking about harmonizing guitar things throughout to also complement, which is cool because when we do, we didn't so much on the last record, but on Missing Parts, there's like 8,000 guitars on that record. And I was doing all kinds of wacky shit. I was playing like,
dude, it sounds great.
Like, okay, if I put a capo here, and then I can do something, and I'm never able to recreate that in real life.
Yeah.
So now
it's the fourth layered guitar, fifth layered guitar.
I ran a warehouse,
but now
just exists somewhere.
I ran a warehouse when you guys dropped that, and we would listen to it like every day at 8:00.
Oh, that's cool. So you were all the plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ryan's the best. It's super awesome to get to be in a band with him after all this time.
So when
I've known him since I was 15, which is crazy.
Yeah. And Ryan's awesome, man. So when you're, to go back to like your like guitar process, like, so when you're jamming and listening for like what you know, you're like, okay, like what is everyone else doing? Like, where can I fit in? Like, is there something like, I don't know, like to other guitar players, is there something you're listening for, you're playing for, like to help other people carve their way into that? Like what are you noticing that you're like, okay, there's a void there, or there's like room here for something? Like, is it just like you've just fucking played guitar for so long, you just know? Or like, is there something you can help someone else out with that's like, hey man, if you know, I don't know, any kind of advice type stuff?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
I think that like the main thing that I try to listen for is like opportunities to make it dynamic, because at a base level, we're not doing anything like magical. It's kind of like there's only so many punk songs, and then we're all just playing them over and over again.
12 fucking notes and we're all doing the same shit. Yeah.
But to make it something that like makes you feel like something's happening while the song is going on, like to make those dynamics, to make it to make it feel like, oh, there's empty space here for a reason. Oh, there's no empty space here at all for a reason. And then like, how do you get from all those places and make them all connect in a way that like, number one, you can play live and doesn't sound like you're only able to do this in the studio, because that's super important to me too. I often fuck myself with that. If I accidentally do something in the studio and I'm like, how am I ever going to transition these two impossible parts together? Then I have to sit there, and it's like a video game for me for months to try to figure out how to do that and switch around. But yeah, sometimes I make it hard on myself on purpose.
No, I know what,
because you have to it's a video
I know
game.
what you mean about the space, and like, because I'm in a 3-guitar band too, and it really like, it's fun to me that I'm like, okay, I don't have to play right here. Like, let it breathe, and then like I can come in and be dynamic about my parts. Like, I might only be ringing out a single note through 4 fucking measures or something, but at least it's like, you know, I'm letting it's for the song, right? That was one thing that I really learned about, because I'm used to just playing with one guitar. Like, we don't have another guitar player in Foremost.
Oh yeah.
But like,
it's just us.
So going from a 3-guitar band to then starting Foremost as a 1-guitar band, it was a lot more like, fuck, I have to play all the time right now. Like, I can't stop playing. Shit.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I know.
It is like it's also a good exercise to like realize you don't have to play all the time too.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing that I had to get into in the last couple of years. Aside from being very cool, Tim also has the best taste in music of anybody that I know of. And during the quarantine stuff, he would make these mixes of he would just make like mixes of like 50 songs, and they would all be songs from bands that like I didn't know of, because I was raised super sheltered. I wasn't allowed to listen to fucking anything. So I missed a big portion of time when like everybody got into all those bands in the 90s.
Right.
I wasn't into those bands. I only listened to MXPX because that is what I was allowed to listen to. But Tim made these mixes, and I was like astounded by these fucking things. And so every time I heard this song, I was like, holy fuck, there's this whole record I can go discover. And the rest of my band teases me all the time that I didn't know what any of this shit was, because it's very common knowledge to people that weren't sheltered weirdos. But in that process, that's where I figured out that I didn't have to be doing shit all the time. Like, it doesn't have to be constant. It can be dynamic, and like I'm only just playing like a few harmonics for like a whole verse, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That was a big step for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know.
It's fun.
It really like, it's almost like that you're growing as a songwriter type thing. It's a good feeling. I don't know. I'm glad that I'm able to talk to somebody that has played in a 3-guitar band, because it's almost very rare at this point for me to, it's not very rare to see it, but like for me to know somebody that's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Well, being in Drop D helped a lot.
Right. Okay.
And then also, because I could just smash around. And that makes it so you don't have to, you can play the root note and the harmony at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't have to spread your arm out like a crazy person.
Yeah.
We had a lot of tiny parts. It was just Dustin and Craig too. And we did a lot of moments where it was just like, this is just bass. And that was cool.
Yeah.
Or like,
well, yeah, I mean, that I feel like that comes from exactly what you're talking about, is the jamming for an hour thing. And some of that comes from like literally you just like fucking taking a break from playing guitar.
Yeah.
And then like you just stop abruptly and me and Craig just play. And you're like, well, that fucking sounds cool.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think, Craig liked that stuff a lot, like the breathing and the tempo changes, and kind of getting weird with stuff.
You guys were like at that shit from the get-go. I was just learning this stuff in like my late 20s. Like, oh, you don't have to bash a fucking power chord the whole time, Andrew. Like,
I mean, we were learning as we fucking go. I mean, I was, I was just for me, I was just like, well, I'm not stopping,
Yeah.
If it sounds cool, it does.
Just like Above the Screaming and just like Nightmarathons, the thing that I think makes anything good is just like, it's not about anybody, and you can't have an ego at all. And as long as you're just like totally cool and open to literally any possibility, then you can really make like weird musical relationships with people and be like, okay, now we're speaking this language that like we have written.
Yeah.
So like when Nightmarathons is in we're just jamming and writing a new thing, we're all speaking a language that like only the 5 of us know now. And it's just like, and we built that language by playing together all this time, because we know exactly what each other is thinking and like where we might go. And so, it's just like, that's a good way to put it. It's like a language.
That's a fucking perfect way to put it. And if anyone's listening that's never been in a band or jammed, like, you have no clue what we're talking about, but it is a language. Like, the longer you do that with a certain group of people, it is immediate. You like acknowledge everyone's little nuances and everything, like, to a fucking high level of like, I know Chris is digging in right now, and like this next bar, we're going to go all out, or I can tell he's like backing off and he might just stop, and me and Craig need to just fucking jam for a second here. Like, whatever it might be, but like it's an unwritten, like you said, language, man. And that's like, as a musician with a band that you're like tight with, that is some of the that's like the best fucking place to
Yeah.
be, man. It's
It's
so
a great
fucking
feeling for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. It's funny how, we definitely take it for granted
Yeah.
that like a lot of people don't know what
No.
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a language almost, like that
Yeah.
kind of feeling.
Oh,
I don't know.
it's so fucking cool, man. Yeah, it's so cool.
I dig it. I really dig it. I'm all
Yeah.
about the way we've been writing songs. That new one, you just sent me all these bass noodles, man, and I structured it. That song is sick. I'm really excited. I'm barely playing any guitar on it.
Dude, it's 2023. That's a new thing we can do now that's totally
I know.
different.
Oh my God.
I get
Can you
fucking
imagine?
stony baloney and put a drum beat on here and play bass stuff. And then I send it to Andrew and he's like, this is fucking cool. And then we can do whatever with it.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know?
like, oh, I'm going to mess with this before the vet. We have to go to the vet. And like 20 minutes later, I'm like, well, I structured something. It's pretty sweet. But yeah, I really dig. Oh, whenever you were talking about your recording, your 8-track recording, I remember having to use those when I was in high school, recording my first things with
Oh man.
my friends that were your age. They had one, and it was just like the same deal. It's just like, well, you fucked up, so we got to do it all over again.
Yep.
Yes.
We wasted the fucking tape.
So yeah, the new able just to be like, hey, here's this thing to mess with. It's like, I don't know. We live in such awesome
Yeah, man.
times.
As a bass player too, it's the best time because I have GarageBand. It's free. I mean, I had to pay for a fucking computer, but like there's I don't know how many drummers on there, and then I can hit buttons to like, do you want to play harder or softer or more fills or less
Right.
fills? And then you just hit a button
Get
and they just play with whatever the fuck you're playing.
cut back in the groove, baby.
That's crazy.
Dude, like to anyone out there, like you're fucking spoiled. Like this is crazy. Like go do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
it used to be
go-
that if somebody couldn't make it to practice, like you were fucked.
Yeah.
yeah.
You didn't get to hear what that sounded
were
like
done.
that
Yep.
day.
I have a drum machine here. It's a Korg ER1. Like you would have to pre-program your drums into this
And play with it.
and then play with that. Now you can have them set like the swing or whatever. Like it feels like you're playing with a real fucking drummer. Like it's crazy and it's so good, and it's so good for like
Practice and
you know, like
creation.
we can't practice every single night, but if I can come in here for an hour and do that within 5 minutes, have some kind of drum beat going, and then like pick up my bass and play something, like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is crazy.
You know, yeah, it's I don't know. We're just like living in the like the best era for like writing music, being I don't know, whatever. Like
All of our demos sound way better than the shit we were releasing, or the shit I was releasing when I, in the 2000s. It's just like
Yeah.
such high
Yeah,
quality.
100%.
I don't know. I listened to some of the
Yeah.
demos and I'm like, damn, this sounds good, man. Like,
yeah. All right. So, Chris,
Yes.
let's get into some nitty-gritty shit here.
nitty gritty.
What's a band, guitar player, whatever, like what made you want to be in a band, and then what made you like I'm fucking playing guitar, not drums, not bass, whatever. Like what did you hear? Why'd you play guitar in a band? And it could be a mix, like it doesn't have to be like, well, I list like it could be a story up until that. That's fine, because that's what it was for me.
This actually doesn't have to do with anybody that's famous. This is all my entire punk rock life is my cousin's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cousin. I still have a cousin. His name is Brad, and he was my cool cousin.
Hell yeah.
He had a punk rock band called Scratch and Sniff.
Ooh.
Fuck yeah. Awesome.
Very good. And Brad took me to my first punk rock show, and it was at the Knights of Columbus in Warren. And I went there. I saw a band called the Peabodies, which was they were the center of the Warren punk scene. And the Peabodies were what is referred to as Ramones core.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they are pop punk in the way that was pop punk then.
Ours, me and Andrew's was the Unwanted.
Okay.
Right? Like that was our Ramones core.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Eric Peabody, they all had the same last name, Peabody, of course.
Of course, yeah.
He worked at The Wall, which was like our
The
FYE.
record store, yeah.
Yeah.
CD
And
We
store.
had a wall.
when I was a little kid, I went in there to try to buy Doggy Style. And
All right.
he was like, I think I was like 14, maybe 13.
That's awesome.
And he was like, I can't sell you this, man. You're not old enough to have this. I was like, are you sure? And he's like,
What?
He's like, do you even want this? I was like, I don't know. Everybody in school is listening to it. And he's like, you don't want this. And he gives me an all CD.
Oh.
And he gives me
okay. Which one?
Problematic.
Okay.
I think. No. I'm sorry. It was the all CD that was just called All, and it was a crowdsourced greatest hits of all of the All.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So it's it doesn't really exist anymore, but it encompasses all their stuff and has all the singers on it, which was very confusing listening to it as a kid because I was like, how is this the same? How many people are in this fucking band? But so Eric
not to interject, but that's how I also got introduced to All. Was that exact same album? And I thought the exact same thing. I was like, so what the fuck is this? Like, it's just like a compilation album with like the same band. Like, okay, sorry. Anyways,
Stevenson.
But yeah, then so I heard that. That's how I got into punk rock in general.
Okay.
And then Brad took me to see shows, and he would take me to out of town shows that his band was playing, which would be like, it's just a different fucking Elks Lodge or Fire Hall in whatever town is next. So I'd go to like Franklin, Elks, and then Oil City, and then Meadville, Woodcock Township Building, all that stuff. So I was being exposed to local punk rock bands. Brad played guitar, and I was like, I want to play guitar. And my dad also played guitar, but he didn't teach me anything other than a strumming pattern to begin with. And then it was all just like Brad would print me out tabs, and I just had to figure out everything for myself from there. So I just learned off of
watching
punk records and tabs.
That's awesome.
Or sometimes I had the tabs and not the music because I wasn't allowed to listen to it. So I had to like kind of figure out how that all went together.
Gotcha.
Which was weird.
That is super weird.
He was also nice enough to he would dub me tapes, and he would turn down the volume during the swear words. So he would actually make like parental edits of NoFX records and like Offspring records. So it would just get super quiet for whatever period of time, like in the middle of songs, but I was allowed to listen to that. So
that's awesome.
So I got to listen to some.
Shout out to what, Brad?
Brad, yeah.
Fucking shout out
fucking
to Brad, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, Brad's the best. Yeah, all of this is his fault for sure.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
I'll send this to him when it's done. I'll be like, yeah, this is still your fault, by the way. But he always said he was always proud of me. He's like, man, you really did that old music thing, huh? That's fucking crazy. You're like the only one.
That's so cool.
Like, yeah, I don't know if that was a good thing or not to just do it until no one else was left. But
yeah. Well, dude, I mean, speaking of doing it, like, so what you do for a living now is also in a band, and your job revolves around a fucking record label.
Yeah, I run a record label.
Yeah.
Like a real one. It's very weird.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. So, like,
we signed up for the record club, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Sick.
That's cool. Our record's the first one.
Oh, sweet.
Ooh, yeah. That's cool.
Surprise.
What's like, so, we don't have to get into like the nitty gritty of how you got there or what you do on a day-to-day basis, but like, what are some like takeaways or highlights, or, is there advice to bands that are going to talk to you? Like, what do they need to do that's going to make your fucking life easier? You run a record label, you put out small punk bands.
Yeah.
You've got like every band that does the thing with you is the same to start. Like, you know what I mean? Like what could help them out to get to talk to you, to be like, they're not going to piss you off and be like, I'm not dealing with these people.
It's, I don't know. There's probably not anything I could say that would make a band not be weird. That's the thing about bands, is they're always going to be fucking weird, because that's the point. The way that I started AF Records, so AF Records existed for a long time, and then they kind of put it into hibernation after CDs went away and Napster shit. Everybody lost a lot of money, and major label distribution, independent distribution got extremely fucking weird. It's all like businessy shit, but that's what happened. Basically, Best Buy sent everybody's CD back, and the way that those distro deals are structured is like, you didn't get paid until those sold, but you did get an advance on those. So basically, Best Buy sent everything back at once, and then all the distributors were like, here's all your shit, we need all that money back. And a lot of labels had spent it on the next bands because everything was just rolling into itself. So that's why a lot of labels went down, and a lot of distributors went down. AF Records didn't go down for that reason, because Pat is anal as fuck when it comes to spending money, and is smart. So he didn't blow up, but he took it as a cue to, maybe we should chill on putting out bands, because obviously the business has changed.
Yeah.
Because of the internet. I can't imagine what kind of fucking wrench that would throw into my gears now. But then after White Wives, I was working for Anti-Flag. I was driving the bandwagon, and I was like, you guys have a record label. Why don't you let me try to put a record out and see if it works? Because having the infrastructure to do that is something I would never have. It's just a broke ass kid.
Right.
But they had it already. So I was like, maybe I could try.
Yeah.
And then it worked. And the thing I always wanted when I was Anniversary Club or anything, like the support I kind of always wanted from a record label, was like honesty about what is actually happening with the way that money and royalties and the way all that stuff works. And then also just like, it's just kind of a loan from someone that believes in the thing that you made.
Right.
Is all a record deal really is. There are predatory ones where you have to sign away a lot of your rights to get money. There's also predatory. Most record labels are fucking horrible, and they're designed to suck everything they can out of a band. Right. So I just tried to do the opposite of that. And my thought process was, if I can just exist and have it be a thing that just helps bands and ideally just breaks even, but still creates art at the same time, eventually that will compound and build into a snowball. And then I'll have like, you know, a whole body of work, and it'll be all these bands that had records and could go on tour and could do all their shit. And it didn't really cost anybody anything, but we were able to create all this shit that wouldn't have existed otherwise necessarily. So that's all I really fucking do, is it's just like, well, is this worth, I also really like gambling, and this is also gambling. You're just like, is this worth a bet? Mm-hmm. Do I think that this band is going to work out and be able to support this art that I think is cool? And that's kind of the only thing I look at when I sign a band, is like, do I like it, is kind of the first thing that's really easy to solve. And then the second thing is like, are these people nice? And then that's kind of all that I ever think about. I never think about like, is it going to make its money back? Is it going to make money at all? Because it never is. Right. The other benefit too is, so I can take this DIY mentality and use it, but at the same time, I have the infrastructure of an independent record label. Yeah. And, you know, I've also been doing this for a long time, so I have skills that I can pass on to people as they're asking me questions throughout the process. Like, a lot of knowledge that you take for granted when you've been doing something for so long, but just like little shit like how to put your record on the internet in a way that isn't silly,
Right.
or like what you should spend money on versus what you maybe shouldn't, or just stuff like that. So I just try to be a good support system for bands that I like their art and they are nice. And sometimes those bands go on to be on bigger record labels than me, which is also something I try to help with because I also work for Anti-Flag. I have a knowledge of what other labels are like, more serious record labels. And that business gets a lot more sharky up there. And I try to prepare bands that are going to go up there with like, okay, well, get a lawyer and do these things in this specific way, because like this is a way to set yourself up for a success when you're talking about a bigger scale, like that sort of thing.
Super
that's
honest,
awesome,
man. Love the ethics behind it.
It's like there's no other way to do it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scumbags in the label ether, but there's a lot of really, really good bands that just like they need. I mean, it costs like fucking $6,000 to press LPs.
Yeah.
Like, and just because a band is really good and has the means to do everything else doesn't necessarily mean that they have that.
Right.
And if I'm able to give them that support in the meantime, and it also turns into a cool relationship. And then like, this is when I'd started AF Records, it was with my stuff. I think we had AF 55 was the catalog number, and we're at 140 now.
Ooh.
So I've almost put out 100 records since I did it, as this is my 11th year.
That's awesome,
now.
man. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's gotten big, and there's like,
Yeah.
and now they're all like buds and shit, and they like go on little tours with themselves, and like, yeah. It's wild. So it's
and you've
morphed
facilitated some bands like exactly what you said, from like having to sign a deal with you to like bigger stuff, which is fucking awesome, man. That's like, you know, those bands are bands that I listen to, and you know, I don't know where they'd be without someone like you to help them out along the way. So
I'm just maybe. I don't know. I try not to take too much credit. I just send emails and move cardboard around. Basically, is my whole job.
Yeah, but like if you weren't a stepping stone, like there's very few of those.
Yeah.
They would have had to have done it a different way, and the art would have possibly suffered along the way. You know what I mean? They got to do it with you and not get fucked with. And I think there's like,
we're lucky too that we have we have those connections too with labels that are bigger than me that aren't shitty. So I can be like, you're right, this next record is going to be too big for me, because I never want to be any bigger. I just don't want to. It would be too much of a pain in the ass, and I wouldn't be able to do things the way that I do stuff with the accounting, and it would just be too much of a risk too, I think. But I know larger labels that aren't shitheads, so I can be like, you know, take a listen to this band. They did really good for me over here. I think they could do even better for you over there. We can support each other in this process. So that's worked a couple times too.
That's awesome.
And then everybody wins. Like the band gets more exposure. Those labels get someone that are, you know, at least moderately established and have like a proven track record. Also, I know that they're not shitheads, so I can be like, hey, they're not shitheads.
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of shitheads. Just like the rest of
it.
The
almost seems like the music industry was predatory from the get-go.
Yeah, dude. Guys, don't really be shitheads, man. Come on.
Called
be fucking nice.
So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star? And you should read that, Andrew, if you've never read
haven't.
that.
I'll check it out.
It's written from is the drummer of Semisonic wrote it. Semisonic? Semisonic.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
And they did they had the Closing Time song. And that book is all about the experience of being a one-hit wonder band and what happens
the aftermath
in the major label process. Well, just
like
in the middle of it.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And the rise through it is the most interesting part, because the way that, like, there's lots of ways that label world and music world get fucky, but one of them is, like, throughout the process, a lot of musical things find ways to pay themselves for the things that are happening throughout the process. So, like, you're just, as a band, you're just in a machine that is billing you for things that you're never going to pay back, because it would be impossible to. And if you're not acutely aware of that going on, it can be overwhelming. And so you can be Semisonic and have the most biggest hit record of all time, but you still will owe RCA millions of dollars for 1,000 years, because you're never going to fucking pay back all these things that they billed you for that you weren't aware of at the time, like, because they're providing services for you. Right. So it's, a lot of those major labels are just like little ecosystems of grabbing money from you throughout the process in a way to pay themselves back from your future earnings.
Gotcha.
For things they build you for in the beginning, kind of thing. It's sneaky.
It's very sneaky. They set you up for, like, comfort. Like, why don't we go here for a week and check out this studio, see if you like the vibe? And you're like, you don't think to ask, well, who's paying for this?
Yeah.
It's you. Right. You're paying for it.
Well, that's what
you're going to go check that out, and all of that shit's going to be billed back to you off of your fucking record sales.
Yeah.
And no one's I'm sorry, but, like, no one's doing that anymore. Like, no one that's listening to this is fucking doing that. So, like, anytime anybody offers you shit, figure out who's fucking paying for it, you know?
For sure.
And do whatever you can yourself, and then talk to someone like Chris or someone else in his shoes and figure out what the fuck you actually want to do before wasting a bunch of fucking money.
But I do listen to everything that comes in. I get a lot of demos. I got to listen to like 20 demos a week usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do listen to everything, because you never know. Yeah. Something's going to be good. I have a good ear for music that is, like, good. I don't know how else to say that.
No, I mean,
it's like I know what a good song is, and when I hear it, I can be like,
I was gonna back you up there. Like, not even genre specific. You and me both can listen to. It could be fucking anything.
Yes.
And if it's good, we can acknowledge it's good. It could be country. It could be pop. It could be punk. It could be rock. Whatever the fuck. And if it's good, we're like, yeah, this shit's good. Like, dude, fucking. Me and Chris love the Gin Blossoms. Andrew, me and
absolutely.
you love the Gin Blossoms. Like, there's, like, so many bands on that. You know, me and Chris became friends watching Justin Timberlake live. You know what I mean? Like, because it's fucking good.
Yeah.
On TV. Like, we didn't go to a show.
JT, baby.
We didn't go to a show. Yeah, that's right. Y'all think I'm country? We shooting whiskey.
I'm on a big Fountains of Wayne kick right now.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing I'm up to. The old.
Are you listening to old Fountains of Wayne or new Fountains of Wayne?
No, the old Fountains of Wayne.
Like Sink to the Bottom with You, like Radiation vibe stuff?
Yeah. I forget what that album's called, but that's the album.
It's so good, yeah.
Dustin, I'll send you some of these mixes that Tim made, because they're fucking so sick.
Send them.
But basically Tim has curated my entire musical everything for like years. It's great, because he sends me these mixes.
He can send me them too. That'd be awesome.
Oh, it's just self-titled. That's the name of that record. It's just called Fountains of Wayne.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
1996.
Yeah.
Yeah, that record's great.
So good. Dude, I think I heard of them the first time on the Jenny McCarthy show. That's how fucking old I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when did it come out? 96? I was 5. The first time I heard Fountains of Wayne was the hit in the 2000s when I was in.
Yeah, Stacey's mom.
Yeah,
cool.
Of course.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know they were.
Also a great song.
Me, old fucking Dustin here was a fan of them back in the 90s. Okay. So I'm an OG.
No, I listened to a lot of stuff from the 90s.
wasn't allowed to listen to
obviously,
it.
but I didn't know them, you know?
I could talk a very, very mad game about Christian punk rock, but I don't have a
MXPX.
lot of. I mean, there's so many weird, obscure Christian punk rock bands.
My the drummer in my high school band, his dad is a Pentecostal pastor, so like the not being able to listen to things, and I know what you mean because he lived 2 houses away from me as well, so like I got to see it up close and personal, and like the like, oh, you can't go to Warped Tour, but you can go to Purple Door, and like I don't know. I was like, what's Purple Door? You know, he's like, man, there's like Christian rock bands. I'm like, what? There's a whole other ecosystem of music that like it's just out there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Chris, we have
Creation
talked
and
about
Cornerstone were the big ones that I went to when I was a kid.
Okay, I was gonna say DC Talk.
Yeah, I mean that's fucking gross.
We talked. Didn't we talk about that band?
But
that's been brought. Yeah, I was gonna say that's been brought up on this podcast.
Oh,
before.
really?
It's DC Talk, which was like a Christian that was played at like
that was like a Christian boy band, I guess.
Yeah, but they rocked out, bro. That's like honestly, DC Talk is like the Christian Fuel or like Seether or something.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So there really was a Christian band for every band that you could think of.
100%.
There was, there's still really good ones. Ace Troubleshooter was a really good one. There is a really good, hardcore punk. The best one was called Officer Negative.
Okay.
That was really good. That's for your like Dead Kennedys ish.
All right.
That's your like street punk band, Officer Negative. If you want to be in more of a like emo-y punk world, that gets into I guess Ace Troubleshooter was like more melodic punk. Reliant K was like pop punk.
Forgot about
well, yeah, Reliant K was the first one to be like on MTV out of that genre, probably.
Yep. Goaty Hook was another one that was a punk band that kind of turned into a rock and roll band. Yeah, there's so fucking many.
Dude, it still exists. I mean, the whole like it's the church or whatever worship band thing now is huge. I mean, that's like if you're making pedals or guitars or instruments, like that's a huge part of like the people that are buying your shit right now. Massive. Like every church in America is trying to get people in there, and it's bands that are doing it. And so like you're a fucking guitar player in high school or whatever, and like I mean that's like that's where you're going if that's like where you're headed, or like I'm not knocking it, whatever. It's you Google pedal board, guitar pedal board, and half of the fucking videos are worship pedal boards or rigs or whatever. So like it's obviously a huge fucking
part of the market,
which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, man.
Those bands were good though.
Dude, yeah. You listen to the shit and they're fucking tight, man. They have to be. It's fucking awesome. Like there's something there. They're very fucking tight, but they're like doing a very specific thing.
My generation,
they're not jamming out for an hour.
Under Oath and Emery and things like that.
Yeah,
like screamo, But that shit was huge.
Didn't quite have any screamo yet, but yeah, that did get huge.
Super huge.
Hopes Fall.
Yeah.
There's a very specific. We went to Cornerstone when I was in high school. I was 16. My dad took me to Cornerstone, and that's when I got to see like every band that I'd ever liked. I never got to see them before, and I got to see every band that I had ever listened to that was a Christian punk rock or heavy metal band.
Awesome.
Like Zao was a big one. But the specific moment that was crazy to me that always sat in my brain, and I thought about later as I was a kid, like growing up and playing shows and doing whatever, is the singer from Me Without You was eating food out of the garbage can. And he grabbed a bunch of food out of the garbage can and sat down at my picnic table with us. Then we were eating, and he just started eating it out of the. I was like, holy fuck, that's the singer from Me Without You. And back then they weren't very big. They had just had one record come out, just like any other Tooth and Nail band. But back then also, because there wasn't the internet really, you were just buying label focused things. So like when things came out on that record label, you were like, oh, I'll just get that, of course,
Yeah.
because I'll probably like that.
Yeah.
The
And,
Epitaph and Fat Thing. That was, I mean,
but it was even more concentrated because there weren't, and
yeah.
there were so many kids like
Right.
me that were like hungry for something they would be allowed to listen
Mhm.
to. And so you just got whatever came out next, no matter what the fuck it was.
Dude, that's so fucking sad, man.
Yeah, it was weird.
I find it
But-
fascinating. Man.
Fuck.
But yeah, that's always stuck with me. I was like, oh, that guy eats out of the trash. It's cool. That's punk as fuck.
That's so cool.
What the fuck?
Oh man, that's some crust punk shit right there, man. I love it.
Yeah, that's just like, okay. And it's like you and your dad at like a little picnic, and you're like, guys, took a burger out of the fucking garbage, guys. What are we doing here?
I always
Pretty good.
I always harken back to the King of the Hill episode where Bobby hangs out with the Christian skate punks. It's like classic, man. Hank's it's like Satan sucks on the t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
Hank's like, you can't wear that. He's like, why, Dad? Do you like Satan? It's classic. Like,
You just can't wear that.
encapsulates that whole thing for me. It's like, oh man, I didn't.
That's funny.
Yeah, I like didn't know about it at all until I met Zeke, our drummer, and he was like, "Yeah, man, MXPX," and I was like, "Yeah, I know that band." And then he's like, showing me. He actually had. They would pass around videos. It's like Christian MTV or whatever. Somebody would tape it and they'd like pass it around their like youth groups and stuff. And he had this cassette or VHS of like all of these crazy things that I'd never seen before. I'm like, damn, this dude's rip.
Yeah, I forget what channel that was, but there was like a Christian channel, and they would do like it would just be like skateboarding, and they would play the songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did that too. We would tape it and watch it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So wild,
Man,
man.
it's so cool though.
MXPX was the biggest one,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I have a tattoo on my arm that says "For Always" for an MXPX.
That's awesome.
Yep.
No regrets.
No regrets.
The maybe some records. It's
Couple
kind of
records.
morphed. I got it when I was 17. It looks like it says Tom Clancy instead of "For Always." Always also stuck with me when I went to Warped Tour when I was 15. Also tricked my dad into taking me to that, which we had to leave. This is a very good story. I'll make it very short. MXPX was playing Warped Tour, so I tricked my dad into thinking that Warped Tour was okay for me to go see MXPX at. This was the year that Green Day was on Warped Tour. I think this was
Oh, shit. Okay.
99 maybe.
Sure.
And so we went, and MXPX was playing right after NoFX, and I wanted to be up front for MXPX. So I said, I have to go up there for NoFX and wait to see MXPX. Also, I loved NoFX, but Dad wasn't allowed to know that because those CDs were hidden somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That year, Fat Mike had this 3-foot long dildo that he was hitting the security guards in the head with for the entire show. And I'm up there stacked in behind all these people, like knowing my dad is somewhere watching this happen and watching me watch this happen. And I'm like, well, I can't get in trouble if I just stay up here. So I waited. We watched MXPX, and as soon as MXPX was done, he's like, we are out of here. We are leaving, dude. Because he just watched Fat Mike hit these security guards in the head with this giant dildo. I mean, it was fucking huge. It was like a cartoon.
That is so funny.
As we're leaving, Green Day is starting. And I've brought this up to him a million times. I'm like, do you realize that I missed like one of the most iconic
Green
rock
Day
performances of all fucking time that day, as you were dragging me to the minivan because you were pissed about NoFX? I missed a literal moment in history because you didn't want to let me see Green Day. Yeah. But that was a cool ass Warped Tour when they still had like skateboarders and shit, and it was still like lawlessness.
Yeah, my first Warped Tour Walt
cool.
took me to, there was still skaters the first couple years I went when I was a kid.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sick. I was super young. I was like 13, I think, the first time he took me. It's that kind of thing, like, who's this guy that's your sibling's age that's going to take you to Warped Tour?
Yeah, don't worry about
It's
it.
like, well, my buddy Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walt had to come and like meet my mom and tell her that it was going to be all right. And I remember him and his buddy were like, on the way home, I was like, they said something about weed, and I was like, I'll smoke weed, man. And they wouldn't smoke weed with me because I was so young. They're like, nope, not happening, not happening. And it's just like,
good friends, man. That's good.
Shout
That's
out
good.
Walt.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shout
You're
out
like,
Walt.
I'll
like,
do
not
that.
gonna
I'll
be the
totally
one
do
that's
that.
corrupting this kid, right?
Yeah.
I'd smoked weed probably like three times at that point, you know.
Let's give him 2 years and we'll fucking.
But the point of that
then.
story was before MXPX played, they had like a meet and greet thing at their tent. And I stood in the line to ask Tom how to play a specific song because I couldn't figure out how to make it
and he
sound.
fucking told you, right?
Exactly. Like, yes.
That's awesome.
And I was like, hey, Tom, I just had one question. I'm trying to figure out how to play the intro to My Life Story because also I know how to play every MXPX song. That was what I was doing with. That's how I learned how to play bass and guitar. Was I got the tabs from the internet. They were always like a little wrong, and so
they still are.
You had to like fill in the gap.
Yeah,
which I feel like also made me be a guitar player too.
Okay.
I
want to come back to something, but go ahead.
Yeah, Tom was like, yeah, it's just open A that whole time. You don't have to be all the way up there doing anything weird. It's just open A and 9 and 11, and then you go to the D chord from there. It's super easy, man. And I was like, fuck, goddamn, Tom's so nice. It's the best day of my life.
Yeah, those dudes are super nice.
Shout out to Tom.
That's fucking awesome,
they
man.
They signed some shit when I was a kid too. Super.
But also, what the fuck is wrong with anyone that writes guitar tabs on the internet?
Don't know.
They're all wrong.
Yeah, I don't know
for
either.
everything.
Yeah. I think it's a conspiracy to make people suck.
Well, I remember having to watch that VHS and be like, okay, he's doing this in Chick Magnet on the bass. Like, that tab is wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
So
well, the few
wrong.
times we've done cover sets for stuff for Fest, we did a Sam I Am cover set, and we did the Weaker Thans cover set. And when we did Sam I Am, it was really hard because
there's nothing to go off of.
Yes.
I bet.
There are some like videos, but they're obscure 90s things. And when we played, the bass player for Sam I Am, his name is Chad, and he lives in Gainesville, so he came to the show.
Oh shit!
And it was fucking wild. We did a good job. He made me drink Jägermeister, which is a fucking pain in the ass, but other than that, it was a great time.
That is sick.
Good for
man.
Chad.
Yeah, Chad's the best. But it's fucking annoying as shit trying to go through tabs to pick out what's real and what's fake. Because it's almost always horribly wrong at some point, and you end up going like, brain.
Yeah, you're like, who is doing this?
Yeah, so guitar players that are listening that are just starting, just because it's on the internet does not mean that's what they're fucking playing.
Yeah, like it's almost certainly not at all what they're playing.
I don't know how to tell you how to find the one that sounds right, but like if there's 6 of them,
like we had to.
Yeah. Just like play and fucking play until it fucking sounds right, or ignore all of it and just sit there and figure it out like we did.
I was telling Jess, I was like, I still have it, but it's like a little notebook of all these Green Day songs that I tapped out in a notebook when I was a kid. And it's like, okay, like you have to strum it a certain way for it to sound like it, because he plays guitar real weird. Like, I don't know. I remember it's just like fascinating to think about how we had to learn guitar, and now people can just like, I'm gonna sit down and pop on the TV and play along. Like, I got Beato and people point. Like that.
Yeah. Well, hey man, Chris, it's been an hour and a half. If you gotta go, you gotta go. If you want to talk,
sure.
we can hang. I don't. I just
no, I do.
Just want to. Yeah.
Yeah, this was nice.
Yeah, thank you for coming, man.
Dude,
I
this
haven't
was
thought
awesome,
about
man.
those cover songs in a long time. The cool thing about doing a cover set for a whole thing is like, and having to learn like 8 songs for a band, is you really start to do especially Sam I Am. I really got into the head of Sergi, and I was like, whoa, he's using the same. And once you figure out like the tricks,
Patterns,
and then you're like, oh, you're doing the same sort of transitions, or like, okay, you're only on the third note for half the time, and you do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh fuck, that's cool. Each band has their own little like sneaky
nuances
trick that makes them.
Love it.
Yeah. And once you key into it, you're like, oh, that's in every song, you fuckers. That's cool. All right.
yeah, dude, it's so cool because like, where does that come from? Like, it's all the same chords. Like, what did that guy listen to that made him do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it's fascinating to me, like the backstory of where people get their inspiration from.
Chad's super nice. I've been lucky enough to hang out with Chad for a couple times. He's also in Chris Wallard and the Ship Thieves band, and he's been a Gainesville bass player I've known for a million years.
Yeah, amazing.
But other than
phenomenal
Chad,
musician.
I've never talked to anybody else from Sam I Am. And then I watched him at Fest last year, and I was backstage, and the guitar player was there, and I just said, "Hey, that was great. That was a really great show. I'm really excited for the new record." And he shook my hand. He just goes, "Was it?" And he walked away. I was like, "Oh fuck, I'll cherish this forever." That was insane.
Yeah.
What was it? Vanish
Into
I was
the
like,
wind.
perfect. All right, cool. Into the wind.
God damn. All right.
Sick.
Well, I guess I would like to ask if this was awesome.
Yeah, this was awesome.
All right.
Was it?
Cool.
Was it?
Was it? All right. This has been First with Foremost, episode number 8. Chris Stowe. Chris, where do people find you? What do you want to send them to? AF Records, Nightmarathons.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can go to Nightmarathons on the internet.
Okay.
Just type that word. We're the only one that there is.
Yeah.
All the
links will be in this stuff.
Yeah, I don't have anything for myself.
Cool.
Yeah, nobody needs to promote a record label. That's silly.
Fair enough. Dude, love you, man. Thank you for doing this.
For coming on.
Honestly, I feel like we just scratched the surface, man. We got to do this again.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sounds good.
It's been super cool. Andrew, love you, brother. What do you got for us?
Oh, not much. I'm just living in dogland over here. That's about it. I finished my telly.
You got to. Okay.
So, I mean,
let's save that for the next episode.
That's really
build.
all I've been up to is that work and dogs. Yeah.
Cool.
Puppies.
All right. Well,
man.
Yeah. Chewing through wires.
Chewing through the goddamn Wi-Fi wires.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
All right, bye.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening.